Okay, children. Here, this is 2022 MCQ 6th question. Consider that a consumer spends her entire income on the purchase of two goods X and Y. If the consumer's income and prices of good X and Y double and other things remain unchanged, this consumer will. Other things remain unchanged. There is a relationship between price and the income. There are two goods X and Y. So here you can see this information we add like this. So income double and X and Y good, the price also double. Then children, the double income allocate to double price X and Y good. So the amounts remain unchanged. So buy the same amounts of goods X and Y as before. Then 7th question, which of the following helps in explaining why the demand curve for an inferior good is downward sloping? So children, first of all we have to find out what is the inferior good. We should have that knowledge. So inferior good under the income effect. There is a relationship between income and demand, the negative relationship. That means when your income is increasing, the demand decreases, and when income decreases, the demand is increasing. So first of all, we have to learn about given goods. So if given goods also, there is a substitution effect and income effect. We'll learn about that. Given good means exception for the law of demand. Law of demand means there is a negative relationship between price and quantity demand. So exception to that one, that means the price and the quantity demand has positive relationship, that is the given good. That means when the price increasing, the quantity demand increasing, and the price decreasing, the quantity demand decrease. That is the exception, that means positive relationship between the price and quantity demand. Then there is an income effect and substitution effect. When we think about the given good, they concern more about the income. That means this good purchase more when the price increasing, because other goods, that means substitution good prices are high than this consideration good. They concern about the income because the income is not changing, it's not increasing, so they can afford the other good because the prices are high of that other good. They concern about the income, so that's why they purchase this consideration good. So they concern about more about the income effect, so greater income effect it has than the substitution effect, that is the given good. Like that, inferior good, it has a negative relationship between income and demand. So here it has a greater substitution effect. Children, the inferior good means it is you consider with the relative good. This good is you purchase less when the income is high because you compare with the other good. When you compare with the other good, you think this good is an inferior good to you. So you concern about the substitute good. That is why here the substitution effect is greater than the income effect. You concern more about the substitute goods, that means you compare with the other goods and you think about this good is inferior to you. So that is why here it has the greater substitution effect, strong substitution effect. So inferior good, the substitution effect dominates the negative income effect. Then 8th question, assume that goods X and Y are complements. What will be the effect on the equilibrium price and the quantity of good X if an increase in the supply of good Y while other things remain unchanged? There are two goods X and Y. So these goods are complementary goods. So the supply is increasing. Remember that complementary good, there is a negative relationship between one good price and the other good quantity. So one good price and the other good quantity we have to concern. So here one good, that is the Y good. Then the supply increasing. When the supply increase, it shifted to rightward. The supply curve shifted to rightward, and you can see the price is decreasing. When the price decreasing, the complementary good has negative relationship between one good price and the other good demand. So here the price decreasing, the other good demand is increasing. That is why the demand curve shift to rightward. So when we concern about the, as example, torch and battery. This is a torch. Torch and battery are the complementary goods. This is a torch. When the torch price decrease, you purchase torch more. As a result of that, to consume the torch, you need more batteries. So you demand more batteries. That is why the demand curve shifting to rightward. When the demand curve shifting to rightward, you can see the equilibrium price increase and equilibrium quantity also increase. So here the equilibrium price of X increase and also equilibrium quantity of X increase. When you draw the diagrams, this is a simple question. So when you acquire this information and draw the diagrams, and you have to sound knowledge about the relationships and also the drawing diagrams. Okay. The next question, ninth question. The market demand curve for a certain product is drawn in the diagram below. Between the price of 10 rupees and 8 rupees, the demand curve shown in the above diagram. You can see here, this is the 8 rupees and it increased to 10 rupees. So, they ask about the elasticity. Children, when like this diagram, you have to know about the elasticity. Here, this is a diagram, that means this is the diagram you can see here. Left to rightward, downward sloping demand curve. On this type of demand curve, left to rightward, downward sloping demand curve, elasticity on the demand curve, elasticity we have to learn. So, the elasticity is changing infinity to 0. Here, middle of this demand curve, the elasticity is, point price elasticity is 1, equal to 1. So, 1 to 0, you can see up to here, this is a less than 1. That means inelastic demand it has. Then here infinity to 1, that means greater than 1 elastic demand. So you can see this diagram, this area, like this area equal to this area. So here infinity to 1, that means greater than 1 elastic demand we can see. So that's why relatively elastic we can see on this diagram, demand curve, on the demand curve. Then 10th question, demand and supply curves of a certain commodity sold in a competitive market are represented by the following equations. These are the equations. QD equal 40 minus 2P, QS equal minus 40 plus 8P. The total surplus at the equilibrium is, total surplus means summation of the consumer surplus and producer surplus. We call both of these surpluses, that means consumer surplus and producer surplus, economic surplus. Children, we will see how to find out the economic surplus, that means total surplus. First of all, you have to solve these equations, that means you have to find out the equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity. You have the equations equal both QD and QS, then same amounts goes to same direction. So 40 minus 40 goes to here, it is plus 40, and 2P goes to here, it is plus 2P minus 2P. Here when we take it to here, it is plus 2P. Then the price is, equilibrium price is 8. When you find out the equilibrium price, you have to add it to the QD or QS equation and find out the equilibrium quantity. So I take QD equation, that means demand equation, and I add 8 amount for this price. Then I take the QD as 24. So when you solve like this question, it's easy to draw a small diagram and take the answers. And draw the diagram like demand and supply curve, equilibrium price, mark it here like that, 8, and equilibrium quantity 24. So we have to find out total surplus, that means consumer surplus and producer surplus. Children, above the equilibrium price triangle is the consumer surplus, and below the equilibrium price triangle is the producer surplus. So when we find out the producer surplus and consumer surplus, we have to find out these places. This is the consumer surplus and this is the maximum price consumer willing to pay. We have to find that one. And this is the minimum price producer willing to supply. We will see how to find these two amounts. So when it is producer surplus and the minimum price producer willing to supply, you have to concern about the supply curve and you have to take the supply equation, because this is supply curve. It intersect here and this is the quantity is 0 and the price we have to find out. So there is a QS equation, because the supply curve intersect the price in the minimum price consumer producer willing to supply. So QS equation at 0, that means the quantity is 0 here. We have to find out the price. Add 0 to QS, then find price it as the 5. Okay, then maximum price consumer willing to pay. Here the demand curve intersect the price, so we have to take the demand equation. So the demand equation add 0, that means quantity 0, we have to find out the price and the price is 20. Then you can see, children, it's easy to now find out the equilibrium consumer surplus and producer surplus. There are equations to find out the consumer surplus and producer surplus. The consumer surplus equation is half into within brackets maximum price consumer willing to pay minus equilibrium price and close the brackets into equilibrium quantity. This is the maximum price consumer willing to pay. This is the equilibrium price and this is the equilibrium quantity. Add these amounts to this equation. Then the amount is 144. Then we have to do the calculation to the producer surplus. That is also has the equation half into within brackets equilibrium price minus minimum price supply willing to supply, close the brackets, into equilibrium quantity. Then children, this is the equilibrium price, this is the minimum price producer willing to supply, and this is the equilibrium quantity. Add these amounts to this equation, then you can find out the 36 as the producer surplus. Then both producer surplus and consumer surplus add together, we call it is economic surplus, that means total surplus, it is 180.